Just ahead on Crossroads, the Grant County Rescue Mission is making sure everyone has a warm place to sleep this winter.
Hear about the Martin Luther King celebration you won't want to miss.
Marion Utilities joins us and shows us how to keep your pipes from freezing over this winter.
And some third graders are thinking green and bringing recycling to Allen Elementary. It's all just ahead on Crossroads. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Crossroads. I'm Randall King.
And I'm Shaylee Clark.
And it seems like it's been forever. I know it hasn't, but did you have a good Christmas and a good New Year?
I did, but just like every year, it comes and goes. You know, you shop weeks and weeks in preparation, and then in one day it's done.
with shopping. I love that.
Shop, you know. It was a break full of shopping, I have to say.
Yeah, well, whatever you had happen over the New Year, we hope it was a great one for you. And we get accused sometimes on this show of starting off and talking about the weather too much. But what else is there to talk about right now?
Well, when the wind chills, you know,
remember that
negatives.
December where we said, hey, the winter is not bad at all? Boom, January.
And that's the way it goes, especially when you live in this good old state we like to call Indiana.
Well, it has been brutal. I still say that it's not going to be as bad as the winter of 2014, but who knows? We could concentrate all of that winter into about 2 months and it could be just as bad, but at least temperature-wise, maybe not depth of snow, but temperature-wise, we've gotten slammed.
And it's true, and I hear it's going to get worse, but I'm really hoping. But you know, everyone is really affected by colder temperatures, but sometimes we forget how difficult it can be for those who don't have a place to sleep. The Grant County Rescue Mission opens the doors all year, offering hot meals and a warm bed, but it's more than just a shelter. It's a step forward, helping the residents overcome their circumstances.
4:30 at the Grant County Rescue Mission means dinner time. And for some, it also means picking up the ladle. Chester Reed uses his time in the kitchen to serve food, but also make connections with those who come to the rescue mission.
Makes me feel good because I have a good heart and I love doing things for people. And, like I said, these guys here inspire me to keep going.
Everyone who stays at the rescue mission works a job. Chester and his co-workers complete their weekly duties in the kitchen. Director Tom Ballard says the working system helps the residents get back on their feet.
And what we want to do is keep a guy busy and keep them so involved in doing things that they're interacting with other people, they're helping people, that they understand, hey, there's a better quality of life than I can live than hanging out with this bottle over here.
The rescue mission offers warm meals and a place to stay all year round.
A little cold out there, huh?
They don't receive help from the government, but rely on community donations, which forces the kitchen staff to become creative with their menus.
Occasionally we come down to where we're down to not a lot of things to work with, canned goods, what have you, so that's where you become well polished at making something out of nothing.
The jobs aren't just in the kitchen. Norman Bailey mans the front desk. He performs his administrative duties, but also helps the newcomers to the mission by sharing his own experience.
And when they first come in, I sit back and watch them a little bit. Then when I start seeing that they're getting a little comfortable, then I go and talk with them and stuff like that. And then, they was like, well, where do I go? And I'm like, hey, man, the best person I could tell you to go to is the staff.
Norman shares with the newcomers because of the support he received when he arrived in 2008.
The staff, they treat you and bring you in as much as family as they can. Most of the time when we do come here, we have broken ties with our family, extended family, stuff like that. They don't want nothing to do with us. So yeah, we tend to work on that, and then you get close to each other.
The Grant County Rescue Mission will continue helping those who walk through the door. And for workers like Chester and Norman, it's about using what they learned at the mission to encourage others.
And I'm going to keep going. And hopefully one day I can come back here and inspire a lot of people that's here that maybe went through what I went through. So I'm trying and started going, but it's hard, so you just have to take one day at a time.
Whether it's answering a phone or sending a smile from the kitchen, these men are learning to motivate others, even if it comes through a new recipe.
Well, Shaylee, we talk about a number of the great social service and support agencies in town. The shelter is one of them. I think what's interesting here is obviously it's a place to eat and a place to get out of the cold, but there's so many more things for those that if they take advantage of them, people can kind of get that leg up they need.
And it's true, and sometimes we just need a little help. Everyone needs a little help, but I really love this organization and how they're here to just serve the community, which every community needs an organization like
And
this.
of course, they still, next month, we'll have Walk a Mile in My Shoes, and we'll be there for that as well. Well, in other categories of events coming up, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day is right around the corner.
Hear about a celebration right here at IWU.
When we come back.
Well, welcome back to Crossroads. Diane McDaniel, the Vice President of Multicultural Enrichment and Employee Development here at the university, is joining us today to tell us about a big Martin Luther King Jr. celebration happening this weekend here at Indiana Wesleyan University. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon.
And I'm sure that you've been planning this event for a while, but it's coming up. I mean, what is it looking like? Or is it getting the final thing set, or are you getting nervous about it coming up?
We are so excited, not nervous at all. But let me just give you a little bit of a history of how we are now where we are. We have, of course, at the university, the Multicultural Enrichment Council. And the council began planning in 2012, working with, at that time, the leadership team, wanting to recognize Dr. Martin Luther King's Day. And at the time, the leadership team determined that for the very first time in our history that we would actually close for the day in observance. But we just didn't want to close. We wanted to make sure that we remembered the cause and why we were celebrating the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So with that, the council got together and decided that we wanted to do something the Friday before the Monday. And the council brainstormed and came up with the idea of a celebration. And we wanted to make sure that it was a community-wide celebration, meaning the Marion community, Grant County, but not only limited to Marion. We wanted to invite in everywhere our footprint actually extends. So that was, of course, Ohio, other areas, communities in Indiana, and also Kentucky. So with that, we thought a gospel concert. And again, that's basically observing Dr. King because he was a missionary Baptist pastor. And what we wanted to do was just basically take this concert back to the time and focus on the music and the worship experience of his time.
And if you were there last year, and we were with our cameras, it was alive. It was great. So it's just a joyful evening. But one of the things that you also did, I think a lot of people in our audience will appreciate, is you brought in some of the elements that had existed in celebrations that had previously gone on. So, so some of the people that people know locally who perhaps have performed or danced, they are included in this.
They are included, and matter of fact, she's a director of the choir in this year's concert, and that's Reverend Gwen Evans, and she's a minister here in Marion, associated with St. Paul Baptist Church. Gwen brought in a lot of members of the community. On our MLK planning committee is Rita and Art Faulkner, and they are well known in this area, and their contributions have just been out of sight.
Yeah.
So also we brought in a local sacred dance team that basically was a part of the event last year, and they are this year. This year we are extending more, and we're bringing in Broad Ripple High School out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And it's their gospel choir, which will combine with our university and community choir. Plus there's a order that participated last year, that because of feedback, he's back again this year. So it's just a variety, just not a gospel concert. There are other elements involved, but it's definitely worship, and it's a time of educating. So we're looking forward to it.
In about 20 seconds, what do we do in a day like this? I mean, the holiday took so long to get to the point of honoring Dr. King, and
Yes.
it's easy for people to just say, okay, a 3-day weekend, it's there. What happens if we concentrate our effort into events like this?
If we concentrate our efforts, we are remembering, first of all, how far we've come, and celebrating how we have evolved, and also focusing on the work that we still have to do. And that particular day, on January the 19th, although our celebration is January the 16th, that the day, the 19th itself, we should also think about something that we can do in the community as a service, looking at the things that he preached, and that the movement, remembering that movement, we get involved in the community. And those are some of the things that if you attend on January the 16th, the concert, you'll get additional ideas.
You'll be inspired too.
Very,
There's
very
no doubt about
inspired.
that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, if you would like to be there in person, the celebration is on Friday, January 16th at 6:30 p.m. in the IWU Chapel Auditorium.
And if you're seeing this after the fact, we're really pleased to tell you you can see the celebration here on WIWU TV highlights. You need to be there in person, but this is highlights, and that's going to start on January 19th, the Martin Luther King Day at 8 p.m., and then we'll air again multiple times during the rest of the week, so you can check out the full schedule at WIWUTV.com. Diane McDaniel, thank you.
Thank you
for
very
leading this
much.
group, and thank you for what I know is going to be a great night of celebration.
Well, you're great.
And we're going to be there.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
when we come back, it's cold, so we get a lesson in frozen pipes.
Marion Utilities shows us how to keep our water running this winter. Well, welcome back to Crossroads. If you haven't noticed, it's getting cold outside, and for Buck Simpkins from Marion Utilities, that means frozen pipes. He's here to tell us how you can keep your water running this winter. Welcome, Buck.
Thank you.
And I'm sure your job's getting a little picked up now that the temperatures are dropping.
You're right. It's increased quite a bit.
Now, frozen pipes probably isn't your only thing. What kind of do you work with at Marion Utilities?
I'm the supervisor of our distribution department, and our distribution department is, once the water leaves the water plant, our crew is in charge of making sure it gets to your tap, make sure it gets, to your home. So we are in charge of water mains, fire hydrants, broken water mains, anything that's leaking, just maintaining the distribution system in the city of Marion.
So a lot of people worry about frozen pipes and they don't really know how to prevent it. What are some ways that we can go about making sure this problem doesn't happen to us this winter?
Probably the number one thing you could probably do is leave your water drip. When the temperature gets below freezing, just probably the simplest thing is let your water drip. And when I say let it drip, maybe let it drip maybe the size of a pencil lead. You don't want it to really run hard, but you just don't want it to drip every few minutes, because you always want to keep a flow going. As long as there's a flow going, the water won't freeze. So just as long as you keep the water dripping, at a little steady rate, you should be okay with that. Some other things you might do is if you have your kitchen cabinet doors, if you open those up, those a lot of times kitchens are against an outside wall, and that's usually the pipes that freeze. So anytime you can leave those cabinets open, let the warm air get in there, that helps quite a bit. Just insulating pipes, making sure there's no cracks in the siding, or if you have a basement, make sure the basement windows aren't cracked, or there's no cold air coming through that might get on those pipes and freeze them.
Now, is it just the kitchen sink then that you should be worried about, or do you keep all the water running in
I would
different
probably
bathrooms?
keep anything that has plumbing running in an outside wall. An interior wall, you're probably okay. It's probably just mainly the outside walls where there could be, like I say, a crack in the siding or crack in insulation, just letting that cold air get through and freeze that pipe.
Are there some kits that people can kind of have in hand in case it does happen?
In case your water freezes?
Yes.
No, not that I know of. Probably the best thing you can do, and we really stress this at utilities, is to have an inside shutoff valve that works and you know where it's at. Because once that pipe does freeze and bust, you're going to want to be able to shut it off. And if you can't, then you got a problem. That's when you call us in the middle of the night. Just over the weekend, we had several that had frozen last week. They thawed out over the weekend, and our call guy was out all weekend. If someone has an inside control valve that they know how to shut it off, they can do it themselves. So, because once a pipe freezes and busts, it doesn't mean it's going to leak. A lot of times they'll freeze, they'll bust, they'll stay frozen. Once they fall out, that's when they start spraying. So as long as you can have a good operating inside control valve, that's probably almost as big as letting the water drip. Because once it breaks, you want to be able to control it.
And are these valves in newer homes or are older homes?
They should be in all
most
homes.
affected?
They really should be in all homes. I mean, that's one of the things that we really stress. Because, you know, it's one thing to have one. A lot of homes have them, but people just don't know where they're at. So you want to make sure you know where it's at, and you want to make sure it works. And that's probably a real biggie there, is just to make sure that you can control the water once a leak starts. And you never want to try to unthaw a pipe if you don't know how to control the water. You know, I shouldn't say thaw a pipe, unless you know you can control the water. Because once you start that thawing process and it starts spraying, it's kind of too late. So you want to be able to control it. That's a biggie. Something that we also stress is your water meter. The water meter sits out by the curb, and those do freeze at times. So anytime we get snow cover on them, you want to leave that snow on them, because that snow insulates that pit and that meter, and it keeps that from freezing. Because we do get a lot of frozen meters during this time of year. The meters are in the ground, but a lot of times there might be cold air that gets in there, then freezes that meter, and then that's when we got to come out and thaw the meter out.
So let's say the pipes do freeze. What is the first step I should do?
Make sure you got an inside control valve, and make sure it works. And then, if it's one underneath your kitchen cabinet, you can open up the cabinets. Make sure that that may help it. It may come to the point you have to call a plumber out to thaw the pipe out. If it's in an area that is not real, that you don't use a lot, you may just let Mother Nature kind of warm back up, and it may thaw itself out.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen to a lot of people, but if you find yourself with frozen or busted pipes, here's the number for Marion Utilities, 664-2391, and you, Buck, or some of your friends may show up at your house to make sure the problem gets fixed. So Thank you, Buck, for telling us about that.
Thanks for having us.
Well, when we come back, we see how some local third graders are bringing recycling to school. Well, welcome back to Crossroads. Our next story is going to deal with a little bit about Go Green, the environmental movement. And Randall, I have to say, are you big on that at your house?
Well, I was going to turn it back on you before you made me. We do recycle. We picked up the habit when we lived in California, and I'd say once they provide the bins for me, which they did in San Diego, we were attentive to that. You do the same here on campus?
Oh,
At least
yes.
think about your paper and your bottles, maybe.
Yeah, and especially more here on campus because they give us, the containers, and then the recycle bin is just right down the hall, so you can actually take everything and go right down there.
There's a lot of
Makes
us
it
who kind
easier.
of say, well, it's a good idea, but make it easy for me. And what happened recently at a local school, the paper waste was piling up at Allen Elementary. So what happened, some local third graders took something they were doing in class, kind of a persuasive writing assignment. They said, let's put this into practice. They appealed to a worthy cause, a recycling service. Now their homework can be reused and their hard work is getting results.
In Joshua Hallowell's third grade class at Allen Elementary, students are using pencil and paper to complete their math work.
She has 5 stars.
But once the work is finished, they'll take the paper and use it for a whole new lesson, a lesson in recycling.
Christy Connor, another third grade teacher, and I met to do our planning, and we decided that we were going to write a persuasive letter, and we were trying to figure out where and who, because we find it's best to try to find something personally meaningful to the students, to where there's an action and there's a doing, so they start seeing that their learning is taking place and they can change something here. So we decided to do Wabash Valley and recycling.
The students all had different reasons to start recycling, but each one mattered, especially to Wabash Valley.
You know how much paper Alan wastes in a day. We need this recycling program so we don't waste paper. We also need this program so we can save the trees.
Trash and things that we can recycle can harm animals and others and other things.
People were littering all over the world, and we wanted to think why shouldn't we recycle?
So Wabash Valley donated the bins, the dumpster, and the time. All that was left was picking it up from the classroom.
We have a recycling bin in our classroom that if we put paper in it, we put it out each week or two, and then we go put it in the dumpster.
We pick up from the classrooms on Friday, the students do, so they learn the respect of going into a classroom and not interrupting them. They pick them up and they take all the blue bins out to the big dumpster.
But it goes far beyond what's contained in a little blue bin.
Guys, go ready?
They see that whatever they do here affects everyone. It affects how they're viewed in the community. I mean, just having from the school board members to you guys to the newspaper, they start seeing that people are looking at us, whether it be for the good lens or the bad lens, but they start seeing that and they start getting excited.
It's a lesson we all could learn. If you want to see change, do your part to make it happen. Allen Elementary has a few students that are making it happen for their school and using their homework as an avenue for change. For Crossroads, I'm Stephanie McCracken.
You know, I think what I found most remarkable about this story is the recycling movement wasn't even that big of a deal even when I was in elementary. And I can't even say way back then. And I can't even say I would have thought about that as a third grader, like, oh, we need to save the environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great to see that moment where some kind of light bulb goes off, says, hey, we can do something about this. We can do something in our little corner of the world, and it helps a little bit.
And the fact that they now know that writing just a little letter as a third grader, they're heard and they can make a difference,
Absolutely.
which I think is great.
Absolutely.
Well, we want you to know that we value your input on the show. If you have ideas for stories or want to comment on something you've seen here in Crossroads, you can email us at crossroads@nwes.edu. That's crossroads@indwes.edu. And if you prefer mail, you can drop us a note at WIWUTV, 4201 South Washington Street, Marion, Indiana, 46953.
Check out past episodes and all of our local programming by visiting our website. It's wiwutv.com/crossroads. In addition to regularly scheduled programs, we've got a lot of special events going on, and we're in the heart of basketball season. So check all that there, and also you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages in addition to scheduling information and information to keep you up what's going on. You can also kind of find out some of the behind the scenes things, and that's WIWUTV with Facebook.com, or follow us on Twitter at WIWUTV. And I think now that we've got the holidays out of the way and we're turning the corner, even though it's very cold indoors in Indiana, there's lots of stuff going on and there's a lot of things for us to talk about.
Yep, I'm excited. And I'm also, like we said, hoping that that cold weather doesn't come back. But we'll see.
Well, doesn't, you know, this week it's supposed to be 25, 30.
Heat wave.
I know, it sounds like break out the shorts. There we go. Well,
Drink it.
we hope you stay warm. We hope you stay safe. Meanwhile, for everyone who's worked on this show, I'm Randall King.
And I'm Shaylee Clark. The Crossroads of Life bring people together, and that's what we try to do here each week.
Thanks for watching, everyone. So long.